All right, hey everybody. Hope everybody's doing all right out there. We are working on some Algebra 2, lesson 2.4. This is the first problem, at least the way I have it assigned right now. Not to say that couldn't change for me. And we are dealing with a topic called imaginary numbers and complex numbers. Hopefully you've either watched the overview video of the lesson, or you've been in class and understand that we're going to have I be the square root of -1. Before this, oftentimes people may have just said square root of a negative, you can't do it, doesn't exist, but there's some pretty cool places that we're allowed to do some cool stuff with electronics. So if I squared both sides here, that I squared, the square would take off the square root. And so when you do that, you get I squared is -1. So sometimes they'll continue with this and say, for example, I cubed is that I cubed would be like I squared times I to the first. So that's -1 times I, which is -I. If you want one step further, either I to the fourth is I squared times I squared, which is -1 times -1, which would be 1, or some people will say I squared squared, because you multiply those exponents, and that would be -1 squared, which again just comes out the same thing. And there might be a slightly different way of viewing some of the other ones, but just remember that's the kind of thing we're talking about here with these imaginary numbers. So back to our original problem, x squared equals -6. X squared equals -36. And when you square root both sides to undo the squared, because that'll give you a plain x. Now, I do always like to remind people that if I said x squared equals 25, a lot of times students or people will say, oh, well, I can do that, x is 5. And, technically that's only half the answer, because yes, 5 squared is 25, but there's another number a lot like 5 that when you square it is 25, and that is, what about -5 squared? And -5 squared is also 25. So going back to this original problem, this x could really be a positive or a -5. So usually when I have students and I tell them, I say, when you square root both sides to solve, you need a plus or minus on this side for that very reason that we've just explained here in this problem. Okay, so back over to where we were here. I've got the square root of a -36. So you could think of it this way. It's the square root of 36 times -1. Square root of 36 times the square root of -1. This part is 6. And this -1 part square rooted is an I. So when you're working this problem, you either have the 6i, and if you extend that one step farther to include what I explained over here in this bubble, you've also got a -6i. So where they say type an exact answer, use radicals as needed to express the numbers in terms of I and a comma to separate answers as needed, I do think they're implying that they want both that -6i and the +6i. So -6i and the +6i in there. So let's put that in and see how we did. And there you have it. So anyway, hopefully that helps you on that problem. And whatever you do, determination and making sure you're dedicated and disciplined about making sure you figure it out. You can do this. Keep at it.